If these 10 teams didn't sell their soul for money, they would be 10 times more successful. Let's take a look at them. Borussia Dortmund. We cannot talk of teams who sacrifice their own success for money without starting with Borussia Dortmund. This German club has a knack for unearthing and nurturing raw talent. Players like Lewandowski, Goetze, and even more recently, Sancho, Haaland, and Bellingham are just a few examples of stars who have blossomed under Dortmund's care. However, the club has also become infamous for being a stepping stone for these players to bigger clubs, especially Bayern Munich. It's a painful cycle, especially for the fans. The club develops these young players into world beaters, only to see them lured away by the promise of bigger paychecks and more trophies. To be fair, the money they make from these transfers is often significant, but it comes at a huge cost. The team's chemistry is disrupted, and they're forced to start rebuilding. It's a never-ending cycle, and it hinders Dortmund's ability to compete consistently at the top level. Interestingly, the same Dortmund, with all the constant selling and rebuilding, reached the UCL final last season. Maybe, just maybe, if they didn't sell Haaland, Sancho, and Bellingham, they'd have won their first ever CL title. So basically, Dortmund's success in developing talent has become a double-edged sword. On one hand, it shows how good their youth development and their scouting system are, but on the other hand, it's a constant battle to hold on to their best players. It's a situation that the fans especially find frustrating, as they watch their beloved club produce future stars, only to see them in the colours of their rivals in a few years. The same can be said of an English side that actually won the Premier League title, but before I reveal that, you need to hear this. Leicester City. Now back to that English side. No one expected Leicester City to do the unimaginable, winning the Premier League title in just a season after being promoted. That year they won. There was no doubt about it. They had the most balanced team in the league, with red-hot, in-form Vardy leading the line, Mahrez on the wing, Kante the midfield engine, and a defence that could hold its own. No other team stood a chance. Not City, not Man U, not Chelsea. But you'd think the club's management would do all in their power to retain their most important players. Unfortunately, the temptation of big money proved too strong for Leicester to resist. Key players like Kante, Mahrez, and Drinkwater were sold to bigger clubs, leaving a gaping hole in the team. Kante and Drinkwater to Chelsea, and Mahrez to Manchester City. It was a classic case of short-term gain for long-term pain. The Foxes cashed in handsomely, but their title-winning squad was dismantled, and the club has struggled to regain its former glory, eventually crashing out of the PL in the 2022-23 season. I mean, no doubt about it, Leicester's Premier League triumph will forever be remembered as one of the greatest sporting upsets in history. But their lack of sporting ambition and preference for money will also not go unnoticed. Their ambition might not be top-notch, but at least Leicester has won the league title in the last 10 years, unlike Tottenham. Tottenham. If there's anything more pronounced about the North London club, it has to be their extremely obvious lack of trophies, especially for the big club that they are, but that lack of silverware isn't without reason. Tottenham have a knack for identifying and developing raw talent, only to cash in on them when their value peaks. Players like Bale, Modric, Walker, and Kane have all commanded astronomical transfer fees. And although these sales have undoubtedly filled the club's treasury, it has come at a significant cost. The constant turnover of key players has disrupted the team chemistry and hindered Tottenham's ability to mount sustained title challenges. Again, this is just another reoccurring theme of short-term gains for long-term pain. Tottenham have found themselves in a cycle of selling their players to balance the books and then struggling to replace them with players of equal caliber. This means they are unable to challenge for major trophies and have fans left feeling frustrated and disillusioned. Now, don't get me wrong, there's more to Tottenham's lack of major silverware than selling their biggest stars, but it's a major problem that needs to be addressed. And until Tottenham find a way to break this cycle and build a sustainable model for success, their trophy cabinet is likely to remain, well, empty. Now let's go on to another team, this time in La Liga, but hang on a sec. Sevilla. Maybe if Sevilla put some money aside and was serious about winning for once, they'd be winning more than just the occasional Europa League title. Instead, they've perfected the art of the revolving door transfer policy. Buy low, sell high, rinse and repeat. It's a business model that keeps the club afloat financially, but it's a constant game of catch-up when it comes for competing for La Liga and the Champions League. Players like Dani Alves, Jesus Navas and Ivan Rakitic are just a few examples of talents nurtured at Sevilla, only to be shipped off to bigger clubs for a hefty profit. Of course, this strategy has undoubtedly lined the club's pockets, but the disrupted team continuity has hindered their ability to challenge for major honours. It's a vicious cycle, but a predictable one. Develop promising players, watch them shine, then cash in before they demand higher wages. Sevilla's success in the Europa League is commendable, but it's merely a consolation prize at this point, because surely the club can do better than that. And it's clear that the club's ambitions and that of the fans extends beyond that. If they truly want to compete with the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona, they need to commit to building a stable, competitive squad rather than relying on the constant turnover of players. The same can be said of Monaco. Monaco, what a team they were in 2016-17, and what a team they could be now, challenging PSG for the title and putting an end to the possibility of Ligue 1 being a farmers' league. That season they shocked everyone by winning the Ligue 1 title and even eliminated Guardiola's Manchester City from the Champions League. What a squad boasting the likes of Falcao, Mbappe, Bernardo Silva, Timo Bakayoko, Benjamin Mendy and Fabinho. They were a force to be reckoned with. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and for Monaco, the end came in the form of transfer offers they couldn't refuse. One by one, their star players were sold to bigger clubs. Mbappe, who is now the best player in the world, was sold to their direct rival PSG. And Bernardo Silva and Mendy went to City. Bakayoko joined Chelsea, while Lemar moved to Atletico Madrid. Even Falcao, despite his age, commanded a huge fee. That was their downfall. Since that time, they've been unable to create anything half as good. And now, we all know the league belongs to just one team. Now onto the Dutch giants. Trust me, you want to hear this. Ajax. Yes, the Dutch giant, or should I say, one-time giant. If you asked anyone who will win the Champions League next season, no right-thinking person would mention Ajax, because they can't even contend and go all the way like Dortmund did last season, let alone win the title. But it was not always like that. Ajax used to be a powerful footballing institution in the 70s to late 90s. Although, to be fair, the Dutch giants enjoyed a resurgence in the late 2010s, producing a crop of talented young players who caught the eye of Europe's top clubs. Players like Frenkie de Jong, Matthijs de Ligt, Hakim Ziyech, Donny van de Beek, David Neres and Andre Onana were instrumental in Ajax's run to the Champions League semi-finals in 2019. But the success was short-lived, as these players were soon snapped up by bigger clubs. De Jong and de Ligt moved to Barcelona, Ziyech joined Chelsea, Van de Beek went to Manchester United, Neres to Benfica and Onana to Inter Milan. And their dominance in the league is lost now. In the last few seasons, they can't seem to hack it in the league anymore. This is the consequence of a club developing talent only to sell to richer rivals. Ajax now has a depleted squad and struggling to maintain their momentum. Unless they can find a way to retain their top talent, Ajax will continue to be a selling club rather than a title-winning force. Like Ajax, Porto enjoyed a successful European pedigree until they didn't. Why, you ask? We all remember Porto's historic Champions League win under Mourinho in 2004. It was a glorious moment, but it's been a long time since Porto truly challenged for European glory. Players like Deco, Ricardo Carvalho, and Costinha, who were instrumental in that triumph, were soon lured away by richer clubs, and Porto allowed it to happen. As long as they were paid and paid well, they didn't care. This trend has continued with players like James Rodriguez, Danilo, and more recently Diogo Jota and Eder Militao, all making their way to top European leagues. Porto have never been the same since then. They may be getting 1 or 2 bits of silverware in their league, but it's going to take a long time before they achieve anything in Europe again. So yeah, they're now a stepping stone for aspiring stars, instead of a destination club for established players. Back to the Premier League. Southampton. Southampton have built a reputation as a talent factory, producing some of the brightest young stars in English football. Players like Gareth Bale, Luke Shaw, Adam Lallana, and Sadio Mane all honed their skills at St Mary's before moving on to bigger clubs. Impressive, but for one thing, the Saints have consistently sold their best players to generate revenue, and as a result, They can't build a sustained challenge for the top spots in the Premier League. Even if they don't pull a Leicester City by winning the league, the players they've sold were more than capable of winning them the Carabao, FA Cup, and maybe even a Conference League like West Ham did in the last few seasons. The likes of Virgil van Dijk, Cedric Soares, and Danny Ings have also departed for lucrative deals, leaving Southampton to have to start again with a new crop of youngsters. And there's no helping it. It disrupts the team's chemistry. So yes, Southampton's academy is no doubt a source of pride, but seriously, the club must find a way to retain its best talent if they want to compete at the highest level consistently. Leeds United needs to do the same if they want to be taken seriously. Before I tell you why, let me take you back in time. Okay, so a little bit of history here. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Leeds United were a powerhouse. They reached the Champions League semi-finals in 2001. Players like Rio Ferdinand, Alan Smith, Harry Kewell, Robbie Keane and Mark Viduka were at the heart of this successful side. But, and this is a big but, the club's ambition surpassed its financial means. They spent too much on player wages and transfers, and this got them into a serious financial crisis. To stay afloat, Leeds were forced to sell their prized assets. Ferdinand moved to Manchester United, Kewell to Liverpool, Smith to Manchester City, Keane to Tottenham, and Viduka to Middlesbrough. These departures hurt the team, and the club suffered relegation not long after, and that was how they sacrificed their steady rise into the ranks of a big team. Now let's wrap it up with the French team many don't mention. Lyon. Lyon has established itself as a prolific talent factory in European football. The French club have a knack for identifying and developing young players, turning them into highly sought-after stars. However, this success has come at a cost. Players like Karim Benzema, Alexander Lacazette, and Houssem Aouar are just a few examples of players who have graduated from Lyon's academy to become household names. One would think they do everything in their power to retain Eden Hazard, who was considered alongside Neymar as the best young player in the world at that time. But that £32 million was too good to resist for Lyon, and the Belgian wizard finalised his move to Chelsea. There's a positive to it though. Lyon is now seen as the go-to Ligue 1 club if you're looking for a superb talent. So yes, their role as a talent exporter has undoubtedly enhanced their reputation, but it has also limited their success. To truly compete with the European elite, they need to find a way to retain their best players and build a sustainable model for long-term success. And that's it, guys. What other club that wasn't mentioned do you think should be on this list? Let me know in the comments section below.